Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video it is going to be one of my own replays against a player from the 201 region, and it showcases one of the other techs on Typhoon, namely the air mark tech that basically debuffs air units within a certain radius every couple of seconds. And yeah, I mean, here it showcases, what it can be used for. Now, I'm up against an aerial spec, so obviously we will be seeing some air units, and I decided to start with a missile specialist here with Vortex and Sledgehammer. Well, I guess the first video where I showcase starting with Vortex. Really good unit. I think early on especially it is exceptionally powerful. It does have a bit of a bad matchup into something like Sabertooth, as it does get one shot, but if you manage to avoid the Sabertooth matchup, it tends to do really well into everything else, and especially here into Steel Ball, we should have a good time. Now, even though I did know that my opponent was an aerial specialist, I didn't quite expect the round 1 Steel Ball cell into Phoenix purchase, because, well, that way my opponent doesn't have any chaff clear. Obviously, that doesn't matter because I have no air units, or anti-air units rather, and so they win by default. But yeah, it wasn't exactly on my list. Now, how could I have dealt with this? I could have bought Marksman, but I mean, if I'm playing aggressive, I would rather go into Phoenix myself, I think. I could have gone for Fangs as well. Maybe that's a bit more logical, but I was expecting my opponent to build something like Hound here or Arclight, and yeah, the Fangs, I'm not sure if they would have survived on the front lines, and it shouldn't matter too much. Now, that being said, with my opponent having no chaff clear, a lot of my units here will likely survive, and if the Phoenixes kill all of them, they might level. And there are a few things as problematic as a level 2 Phoenix on round 2. That early on in the game, it basically one-shots everything, and it can be a real pain to deal with, so I was a little bit worried about that prospect. Thankfully, I do have missile spec on round 2, and even though my opponent is an aerial spec and level 2 Phoenix will survive a single missile, I can always double stack them to get rid of the Phoenixes, even at level 2. But it would use both of my missiles, which is a little bit sad. And yeah, we can see here that the Phoenixes will indeed level. They've already done so with a couple of Vortexes and Sledgehammers remaining. So that will certainly be, I think, the main problem to deal with. If I can somehow make sure that the Phoenixes, die early or aren't involved in the fight, then I'll do well. And if not, then it will probably be the main carry for my opponent. Round number 2, we do get some unit reinforcements. There are marksmen in here. As I mentioned, I probably wanted to go Phoenix, but considering I get 2 marksmen for free here, I'm not gonna say no. It's not necessarily my unit of choice when I'm playing aggressively, but it should do the trick. I am going to stack my 2 missiles here to kill that Phoenix. You do need to do that because they have over 3,000 hit points on aerial spec at level 2. So, yeah, they would be able to survive a single missile. And the other unit drops here are not the most useful. I could think of something like Hound, because my chaff clear is not fantastic. But I thought the marksman here would at least, be able to do the job, and it allows me to buy some more chaff. I am going to go for a Fang here on the right side, as well as a Crawler, to kind of just stall and hope that I don't get debuffed too soon. I also did grab a tower level, and I'm kind of just trying to play on the left side as much as possible. Opponent did go for some Void Eyes, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue for the Vortexes, and I do like how useful they are against my opponent's board. They're good against the Arclights, they're good against the Vortexes, against the Void Eyes, and I should be able to pick up range on them relatively soon. Chaff clear, again, might be a problem at some point, so yeah, could consider buying something like a Typhoon or some Mustang to be able to deal with that problem. But for the time being, we are winning, and it doesn't seem like chaff clear is too big of a problem. And as long as that is the case, I am perfectly fine just investing into the Vortexes a little bit more. Round number 3, we do get Redeploy, something to consider. Wasp Swarm, very good as well. I'm not really planning to play on the right side immediately here, and that Wasp Swarm should allow me to bully the Phoenixes a bit more. So thus far, you know, with the spells we are managing, again, this can be very, very annoying to deal with this early on, that level 2 Phoenix, but with the double missiles from our specialist, with the Wasp here, if it can take it out, we're doing just fine. Opponent instantly going for Shockwave on the arc lights, adding even more, just kind of focusing on chaff clearing their weak side and leveling the tower as well. I decided to go for a deep sledge flank to kind of pull everything away. Everything is, you know, in this quadrant in the top left, so it should get pulled and hopefully allow my vortexes to get in. There is also this Wasp. I did put a Fang right behind the tower, as well as some more chaff and the missile. And yeah, this round is, again, mainly about just setting up. We have the sledgehammers, we have the Fangs. Not going to get debuffed. Wasps here are doing a good job. Looks like I should be able to get rid of the level 2 Phoenix. And with that, I should be able to win the round. That tower is leveled, but level 2, not really an issue yet. We do manage to get through it relatively quickly. Vortex is grabbing levels. That will help a ton as well in terms of DPS. And things are looking good so far. So the onus now really on my opponent. I mean, I will have a round presumably here where I won't be able to get rid of that Phoenix immediately. I do get a missile strike, but that's again not going to be enough. Both of us are going to pick up the additional deployment instead, as it is very early. And now I decide to go for more vortexes. I'm feeling pretty confident about my setup so far. And yeah, I really want to make sure that I can start perhaps linking the vortexes at some point. Just pressure that side even more. I'm going to get oiled. Opponent also going for a fire badger to light that on fire. There isn't that much chaff, but the fire could take down my marksman. And if it does, well, then chaff gear could be a bit of an issue. I'm going to go for a deep flank on the right, mainly to just pull stuff away and stall the phoenixes, because right now I don't have any chaff gear yet on that right side. And even if I do, I wouldn't have a unit to be able to contest that phoenix. So I'm really just trying to stall as long as possible. I don't mind the tower falling. I just don't want it to fall immediately, and I'm kind of hoping that I can pull or push in quicker than my opponent can. As I mentioned though, sadly the marksmen are just not tanky enough. They will end up dying to the fire, and we end up losing the round. The other Phoenix that got purchased levels up, and now things are getting a bit tricky, as I do finally have my missile strikes back off cooldown, but the question is, how am I going to pressure this side, and how am I going to, you know, consistently deal with the right side? Missile strikes for the time being, probably just going to use them somewhere. At this point, I might end up using it on this crawler and this phoenix. Do pick up the heavy armor. These sledgehammers are very nearly leveled, so that should be useful in the long term. Leveling up the vortexes, thinking about ranging them. My opponent goes for the Rhino Assault in the back. And yeah, here is range on the vortex. More chaff. Just kind of stalling here, perhaps trying to see what the next unit drop will give, because round 6 or round 7 we will be offered some unit drops, and those often can give a bit of direction. Considering to go for a Wasp, we'll actually pick that up. And perhaps adding some more vortexes on the right side. Now, looks like for now I am just going to keep stacking them. Again, trying to make sure that I can overwhelm, and the idea was to, well, eventually kind of triple tech or even quad tech with things like Accumulator Shield, Electromagnetic Twin, Grid Integration, and really barrel down the left side of the field. Opponent now going for their first tech on Phoenix with the Quantum Reassembly. Extremely cheap tech, very, very powerful, and even going to result in a bit of an attack now. Arclight Phoenix aimed at the tower. I do manage to missile that Phoenix, as it is a bit quicker than the Arclight, which I'm quite happy about. Looks like the Wasps will also be able to deal with the Rhino, so right side tower is still relatively safe. Will I be able to get a debuff though? Does my opponent get it first? Looks like I will get it first. Not ideal timing, but maybe I can take down the Arclights here. They do have both range and shockwave, which gonna do a relatively good job against my chaff. As we can see, most of it has died already, so it's really up to the vortexes now. Sadly though, this marksman gets pushed forward and then ends up dying, so yeah, I'm going to lose this very sadly. There's definitely a world there where the marksman just sits safely and manages to kill the phoenixes, but wasn't meant to be. Round number 6, we finally get unit reinforcements. I don't get what I wanted from it, so I just decided to pick up the Wraith and sell it. Opponent is just going to add it to the right side of the board here and perhaps build on top of that. I'll have to see what I want to do about all of this. I am going to range the marksman. If you're wondering about my tech bar, I still want to try out Assault Mode Marksman because Hackers got nerfed and Assault Mode got buffed, as well as a Quick Reload, which is now a lot cheaper and obviously pairs very nicely with the Assault Mode Splash that you gain. I haven't really had the opportunity to, but that's why I'm running that tech bar. And I'm now going to reinforce the right side with the Sledgehammer to kind of try and stall this Arclight as well as potentially the Wraith, and adding some more vortexes here to be able to get rid of the enemy Arclights, because if I can do that, then Chaff Clear should struggle and I'll buy myself more time to get rid of the air units. Crawler here though, another Phoenix and a Wasp. Things perhaps looking a bit more painful than I would want. I did add a Marksman, but it doesn't have aerial specialization yet, and I don't have a great way of getting rid of all of these Wasps. And so now that I'm seeing this massive air investment, I'm thinking to myself, maybe I want to just go for some Typhoons here at one point. Typhoons with the aerial mark, you know, and the big radius debuff should do very well into this, you know, big clump of area units from my opponent. Left side doing well, but the tower is slowly getting leveled, and level 3 tower already seems to be a bit of a struggle for me to get through. I also don't have the best chaff clear still, so that crawler pack originating from the right side and surviving causes me a lot of trouble, and I am going to find myself now to below 2k with a couple of problems to solve. Round number 7, opponent gets extended range Phoenix offered, which I wasn't too happy about because that is roughly just a straight buff to my opponent, and it could allow them to go for something like charge shots at some point if they wish to do so, and at the bare minimum it'll keep the Phoenixes a lot safer from whatever air units or anti-air units I want to build. More Arclights going to get added. I don't think I picked up anything here. I just need as much money as I possibly can muster. And now we'll have to see how I want to deal with this. I did think about going Mustangs as well, and it looks like that will be the go-to for the time being. With additional deployment slot and the money I have, I am able to go for triple Mustang here with the range and aerial specialization. Kind of hoping to get through all of the Wasps, and also aerial specialization Mustang are probably one of the better things to build into this type of quantum reassembly Phoenix spam, which can be very tricky to deal with. I don't run EMP on my marksman. That would have been another option, but either way, the Mustangs also, you know, deal with the Wasps, which would be a problem otherwise. Wasp drop is back off cooldown, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I'm gonna try and annoy this Phoenix pack here on the top left as much as I can, and at least leaving one Mustang all the way over here to perhaps take it out if need be. And yeah, Crawler on the deep flank here from my opponent, so it's kind of a classic crossfire where both of us have a weak side where we're just trying to defend and stall as much as we can, and we have a strong side where we try and take the tower as quick as possible. Mustang so far doing a good job. The marksman does manage to lock onto that Wraith. It will go down. Still though, a lot of Arclights in the way, but I get a nice debuff. Even though it's a level 3 tower, that's still 5 seconds worth of debuff, and it allows my Mustangs to get through the chaff. The level 2 crawlers are a problem, I'm not going to lie. And here we're gonna have to see if I have enough anti-air to be able to get through all of the Phoenixes, because obviously they will keep respawning with that quantum reassembly. But this is an unleveled tower. 9 seconds of debuff there. The marksman with range going to sit safely behind the rest of my team, and I will be able to get through all of the enemy units. Not a lot of big units left alive, but still, that's 1,000 damage there going my way. And we've basically equalized stuff heading into round number 8. And round number 8, we get unit reinforcements. And here are the Typhoons that I was thinking about. So With air defense mark on the bar, I thought, well, why not give this a shot? You know, there's a lot of air units here all clumped up, and air mark should be able to get really good value. And if some of you are wondering, what does it do? Well, every 10 seconds it fires a marker missile with a range of 160 meters, kind of like aerial barrage on fortresses, and it marks enemy air units and debuffs them. It removes, I believe, 20 range flat within a 100-meter radius of the target, and they also take 30% additional damage for 10 seconds. So as long as, you know, it keeps repeatedly getting hit every 10 seconds, the air units are going to be permanently debuffed. It kind of helps the Typhoon deal with air units as well, even bigger things. But, you know, the 30% additional damage sometimes will be not enough, and you kind of have to pair the Typhoon with something like an AA Marksman, for instance, to be able to take down the really beefy targets. And speaking of beefy targets, opponent finds something in the drop as well. Level 2 Phantom Rays with armor. Now, I did kind of expect them because, well, I have level 1 AA Mustangs, I guess couple of level 2s, but you know, those are still going to struggle to get through all of that. My marksmen currently, I don't have a ton of them, and they also don't have aerial specialization, so getting through all of that could be a little bit of a problem. We'll have to see. Anyway though, what we can see is that the air mark, which should get fired, oh, I didn't even go for it here, I just bought the Typhoons. I'm a bit surprised I didn't go for it, so we don't get to see it in action right away. Curious to know why I did that. I probably had other things in mind, perhaps had to grab some levels. And left side tower, by the way, we're stuck on it for so long because it's level 4, and yeah, the vortexes don't have grid integration. Maybe I could go for it, but it is going to be another 400 resources that, you know, won't be used towards aerial defense. And I do manage to win there, but, you know, I'm a little bit afraid here of this right side stack and perhaps my inability at some point to get through the Phantom Rays. That being said, Electromagnetic Blast shows up, and that should be very juicy. There's a lot of units to hit over here, and getting rid of the armor should just be amazing, right? Also getting rid of all the quantum reassembly on all of these units, perhaps even EMPing a few of those arc lights, should do very well. And I think finally we will be able to go for aerial mark. Now, one of the Typhoons here is on the left side of the board. I kind of just put it there to be able to help out and perhaps take down this Phoenix, but maybe I should have added it over here. And now we are going to see the air mark being clicked. And I was just hoping that, you know, that debuff would be enough together with the EMP to be able to get through, you know, all of the units that are stacked on this side of the field. Long term, I might consider going for range and AA on my Wasps as well, if I need more air DPS. I think I would prefer that over something like AA Marksman, because as much as it is good into tanky air units, it does struggle against a lot of Phantom Rays just because there's so many bodies, and once my opponent clicks Energy Shield, which they do, that could take a while, and Wasps would simply get through that a lot quicker. I am very surprised, though, about this stack for my opponent, because I feel like the large EMP was a very easy pickup for me, and I don't really know why they stacked everything on the side you would expect the EMP, because obviously now it is going to get rid of all of the shields, and it is going to EMP a bunch of targets on top of that. And we can now see that air mark in play. So the Phantom Rays, instead of having 80 range, they now have 60, and of course they also take that bonus 30% damage. And yeah, these units are all having a pretty bad time. Nearly all Phoenixes are getting debuffed, losing their range, allowing my Mustangs to get through. But on the left, the fire was back. I think it took care of my Mustangs. And even though it looks like I might end up winning, it's not gonna be enough to deal the 1100 hit points that I needed to finish off my opponent. And so now I'm starting to think, ooh, you know, considering my opponent just stacked a whole bunch of new units with a new tech, and they all got hit by the EMP, and I only lose by, or win by this small a margin, am I in trouble here? I wasn't convinced that I would be able to, you know, easily close this out, because I feel like that EMP should have given me a massive advantage. Now, obviously, the oil on the left side, it didn't help me at all, but, you know, I could see this become a bit of an issue. And so this is where I decide to start investing into Wasps, AA and EMP. I could go AA in range as well, but I felt like trying to disable the double techs here on the enemy units should be pretty good. And that's why I go for EMP and AA instead of AA in range. On top of that, EMP is a lot cheaper than range, so it does allow me to have some more money available to be able to go for something like triple blue Wasp here, as that was the play. Opponent goes for an Overlord, likely will go photon coating. Indeed they do, so you know, now in hindsight I'm not too happy about the electromagnetic shot I went for on the Wasps, but I don't think I would have had, oh well, maybe I would have had the money here to go for range enhancement, so that would have been safer. And the thing is, and this is not explained, but it does work, photon coating currently does block air defense mark. So if you're struggling, you can actually stop air defense mark from working as long as photon coating is active. They did not include this in the English description of the tech. Perhaps it's there in Chinese, but yeah, it does in fact work, and we will be able to have a look, of course, right? Phantom Rays, 80 range. Phoenix is at 195 right now. With air defense mark, that should go down by 20, but as we can see, that is not the case. And yeah, they also don't have the little circle around them, right? You can see these Phoenixes here are getting debuffed, but the photon coated units at the front all still have their base range. Also means that they are not taking the bonus 30% damage. And yeah, can I get through this? The left side is a bit of a problem. I can't get that tower quick enough. And I feel like I have to use my money to be able to really invest into the Wasps instead of, you know, trying to get more damage to get through this tower quicker. Right side losing, and perhaps my worries are justified now, as I'm going to be taking a fair bit of damage here, likely equalizing the score. And at that point, you know, we're getting into the very late rounds, round 11, with less than 1,000 hit points remaining, and it's just going to come down to who wins this round. Most likely. Underground Threat shows up. Very, I mean, kind of basic cards here on round 11. No massive spells. In that case, taking Underground Threat for the bonus crawlers is always a good thing. We do have a lot of small spells back off cooldown. Both the Missile Strikes, both of us have Wasp Swarm, both of us took Underground Threat. So a couple of small things to kind of be careful of, but we are basically defended against everything here, so we should be okay. Gonna build even more Wasps at this point. I just have to double down and hope that I have more Wasps, more levels, more techs on them, and I should be able to win as long as I just commit, and that's exactly what I do. We go for the third tech, range enhancement. Opponent goes for range and AA Wasps, but only at level 1, which I think is always a bit tricky. The alternative would be to go for something like range AA Mustangs of their own, and we'll have to see here if we can actually win. So yeah, it's a bit of a bummer that air mark doesn't work against photon coating, because, you know, it's a little bit weird. There's some things in the game that, you know, do get affected by photon coating, and then there's some that don't. Ionization comes to mind on Raiden, that just goes straight through photon, and suppression shot on Void Eye also goes straight through, but then things like Degen Beam and air mark, you know, do get blocked. It seems a little bit random. I don't know if it's intended, but for the time being, you know, if you are struggling against air mark in a game, you can try and photon coat your units. It seems like here we will be able to win, and 663 damage, I think we will have that, if only barely. And yeah, there we go. We managed to take the win. A very scary game, kind of showcasing the potential, though, of the air mark. I think it did do a good job, especially in the, you know, the round it came out, kind of bullying those air units and forcing my opponent to do something about it. Also showcasing, right, the counter with the photon emission. And, well, the question remains, what could my opponent have done? And I think that in this scenario, it would have made more sense for them to go for something like Mustangs instead of Wasps, because I already have a lot of Wasps. I have them at level 2. You probably should expect me to kind of double down and go for range enhancement on top of things. So it's very hard to catch up in the Wasp fight. So it's much better to go for something different and perhaps grab a couple of Mustangs here. Now we will want to low on temp range, temp speed. We do have additional deployments, so we don't need to click the additional deploy button on the tower. And then we want to range and AA. Going to put this over here and then just kind of spread out the Mustangs, I guess. Kind of make sure that these guys can perhaps target those. These can target the guys over here. I am going to sell, I think, this guy to be able to shield my Mustangs over here. Because we do have to be a bit wary of the missile strikes, obviously. And then I'm going to put these Wasps all the way in the back. Aside from that, not quite sure what we want. We could go for a little mobile beacon, perhaps. Try and make sure that some of these units get caught into the photon coating. And then I think I'm going to go for 2 missiles on the chaff, just to try and help us get in a bit quicker. Let's just press play and see what happens. I think in theory, Mustang should do a lot better. Wasp just cannot compete with them in the long run, and is the better counter. Looks like, for the time being, especially these outside Mustangs are doing a great job of catching some of these Wasps. The right side is stalling well enough. We'll have to see how is this going to shape up. Looks really good. And yeah, I think that that'll be plenty. In fact, it's a very convincing win. Way more convincing than the victory I got in the actual game. Almost 2,000 damage over. And yeah, kind of showcasing that Mustangs are still very good against Wasps if your opponent is going for those. So that would have been the winning play. If you guys like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. Have you been playing around with Air Defense Mark? Have you ran into the same problem that I faced? You know, did you know about photon emission countering it? Let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. That being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.